I am going to say something that will annoy both sides of the AI internet. For the last year, Claude was my default. But after using ChatGPT and Codex together, I do not think the real comparison is Claude versus ChatGPT anymore. The real comparison is chatbot versus workflow operating system, and that is where the math changed for me. Because if you only open a blank chat box and ask a question, Claude still feels incredible. But the moment your work needs research, files, apps, code approvals, screenshots, tasks, and repeatable workflows, ChatGPT is starting to feel less like a chatbot and more like a command center. That is the part I did not fully respect until I tested it in my own workflow. Quick disclosure before we get into it. This video uses my HeyGen avatar. Real screen recordings are labeled as real. Any workflow with dummy data is labeled as mock. I am not going to show private accounts, employer data, billing screens, or anything sensitive. Here is why this matters. The AI tool you choose today is not just answering questions for you. It is learning your prompts, your project structure, your writing style, your files, your automations, your approval habits, and the way you think through work. So if you build everything around the wrong ecosystem, switching later is expensive. Not because the button is hard to click, because your context is scattered everywhere. So in this video, I am going to break down exactly what changed. We will look at ChatGPT apps, deep research, Codex skills, automations, mobile approvals, and the places where Claude still wins. And at the end, I will show the migration plan I would use if I were moving from a Claude only workflow into a ChatGPT plus Codex workflow without losing memory, prompts, or project context. This is not a fanboy video, this is a workflow audit, and I want you to judge it that way, not by one beautiful answer, not by one viral screenshot. Judge it by the boring things that decide whether a tool survives in your real life. Can it find the right source? Can it remember your process? Can it open the repo? Can it run the test? Can it wait for your approval instead of making a mess? Can it help you publish, ship, and repeat the same workflow tomorrow? My starting point is simple. I still like Claude. Claude Code is a real product. It reads your codebase, edits files, runs commands, and fits naturally into developer workflows. For writing, reasoning, and code conversations, Claude has been one of the strongest tools in my stack. But the thing that changed is not one model benchmark, it is the ecosystem around the model. When the surrounding workflow gets stronger, the model does not have to win every single isolated prompt. It just has to move more work from idea to finished output. That sounds subtle, but it changes the whole buying decision. For example, if I am writing a script, I care about tone. If I am debugging a repo, I care about whether the agent can touch the files safely. If I am researching a news video, I care about official sources, timestamps, and claims I should avoid. If I am building an automation, I care about whether the result lands somewhere I can review. These are not the same task. And that is why the winner is not always the model that gives the prettiest first response. The winner is the stack that keeps the work moving across all of those surfaces. The first crack for me was reliability and workflow friction. I am not going to dramatize this. Every AI product has bad days. But when a tool becomes your daily operating layer, even small interruptions become expensive. You can see this on public status pages. Claude has had recent elevated error incidents, and the point is not Claude is unusable. The point is, if I am planning a creative workflow, a coding workflow, and an automation workflow, I need to ask which stack gives me the most stable path from input to shipped output. That is when I stopped comparing only answers. I started comparing the whole system. This is also where context switching becomes expensive. One tool for research, one tool for code, one tool for images, one tool for docs, one tool for automations. One tab where I ask questions, another tab where I paste the answer, another terminal where I run the fix, another browser window where I verify the claim. That looks normal until you zoom out. The hidden cost is not the subscription. The hidden cost is all the tiny manual bridges between tools. And if ChatGPT plus Codex removes even a few of those bridges, the economics change. When you open ChatGPT now, the important thing is not the message box. The important thing is everything around it. Apps, deep research, files, projects, Codex mobile, and increasingly, tool actions that live inside the same account surface. That is the shift. ChatGPT is becoming the place where the work comes together, not just the place where you ask one clever question. Think of it like this. The old AI workflow was prompt in, answer out. The new workflow is context in, plan reviewed, tools used, artifact produced, human approves. That is a completely different loop. It is slower than magic in the first 10 seconds, but faster across a full day. And for serious work, that is the only speed that matters. Let me show you the simple version first. Inside ChatGPT, apps are the connected tools layer. Depending on your plan and workspace setup, Apps can search and reference your data sources, support deep research, sync content, and in some cases take approved actions. This is important because most real work does not live in a prompt. It lives in docs, task design files, slides, spreadsheets, customer notes, source pages, and internal tools. So the question becomes, can the AI reach the right context without me copying and pasting like a full-time intern? That is the workflow advantage. Now, there is a safety boundary here. I do not want apps randomly taking actions inside my work accounts. I want clear permissions, approved tools, and a visible review surface. That is why I am not impressed by demos where an agent quietly does 10 things behind the scenes and everyone claps. I am impressed when the product makes the permissions boring and inspectable. Can I see what it read? Can I see what it changed? Can I stop it? Can an admin control what apps are allowed? That is what turns a cool demo into something I would actually use. Now watch what happens when you combine this with deep research. Instead of saying, search the internet and tell me what happened, I can give it constraints. Use these source domains. Ignore random blogs. Give me a report with citations. Tell me which claims are weak. Separate official announcements from commentary. That matters for a creator because the internet rewards speed, but bad sourcing kills trust. For an engineer, it matters even more. You do not want a confident answer. You want a trail you can inspect. Deep research gives you that structured plan, source selection, progress report, citations and review. The most important part is not that it writes a long report. Long reports are easy. The important part is that the report has a source spine. If a claim is based on an official product page, I can use it. If a claim is based on a random post, I can downgrade it. If a claim is future-looking, I can say, OpenAI says it is building toward this, instead of pretending it shipped today. That distinction is the difference between content and credibility. And in AI content, credibility is becoming the moat. Here is how I would actually use it. Suppose I am making a video on a new AI product release. I can ask for an evidence brief from the official product page, the help docs, the release notes, and one competing product's docs. Then I can ask for what changed, what is real today, what is only promised, what should not be claimed in the video. And this is the exact difference between an AI video that sounds excited and an AI video that is actually defensible. The tool is not just helping me write, it is helping me avoid saying something stupid on camera. Then I can take the same research brief and turn it into production inputs. Give me the cold open. Give me the claims to show on screen. Give me the official screenshots to capture. Give me the visual beats that should change every 3 or 4 seconds. Give me the do not say this list. That is the moment where research stops being a document and becomes a production pipeline. This is why I keep saying workflow operating system, because the value is not one answer. The value is that each answer becomes input for the next step. But the biggest switch for me is Codex. Because Codex moves the workflow from answer my question to work on the thing. OpenAI describes the Codex app as a command center for agents, parallel tasks, long-running work, diffs, worktrees, skills, and automations. That is a different product category. When I am coding, I do not only need an explanation. I need someone to inspect the repo, edit files, run tests, read the failure, fix the failure, and show me the diff. And I need to supervise that without losing the thread. That is where Codex starts to feel like a coworker instead of a chat tab. This is also why the app matters. In a terminal-only workflow, everything is powerful, but it can become invisible. In a pure chat workflow, everything is visible, but it can become disconnected from the repo. The Codex app tries to sit in the middle. It keeps the conversation, the task, the files, the diff, the test output, and the review loop in one place. That is a very different feeling from asking a chatbot, what should I change in this file? The agent is not just advising. It is operating under supervision. Let me give you a safe demo. Here is a local demo repo. The task is boring on purpose. Find why this settings page breaks on mobile, fix the layout, run the test, and summarize the change. This is the kind of task where a normal chatbot gives you advice. Codex can actually open the files, make the change, run the commands, and come back with a diff. The interesting part is not that it writes code. The interesting part is the review loop. I can see what it changed. I can ask why. I can reject the approach. I can run another agent on a different branch. And I can keep the project context intact. Now notice what I am not showing. I am not opening my real email. I am not opening a production customer dashboard. I am not letting an agent wander through my browser history. The safe version starts with a boring sandbox, a local demo repo, dummy data, clear task boundaries, then you expand trust slowly. That is the only way this becomes a professional workflow instead of a viral magic trick. And now OpenAI is pushing Codex into the ChatGPT mobile app. That sounds small until you think about long-running work. If an agent gets blocked while I am away from the desk, I do not want it to sit frozen for 3 hours. I want to approve a command, answer a question, redirect the plan, or review a diff from my phone. That is not a chatbot feature. That is workflow continuity. And that is exactly where ecosystems start to compound. Think about the number of tasks that die because the assistant needed one small decision. Can I install this package? Do you want approach A or B? This test is flaky. Should I isolate it or fix the root cause? The page requires a login. Should I stop? If I can answer those from my phone while the real environment stays on my computer, the agent becomes less fragile. It keeps moving when my day gets messy. That is not glamorous, but it is useful. The next piece is skills. This is where the product starts to become personal. A normal prompt is disposable. A skill is repeatable behavior. If I have a video production skill, it can know how I want scripts structured, how I review screenshots, what visual rules I follow, what domains I do not capture, and what the final handoff should include. If I have a coding skill, it can know my test commands, my deployment rules, my reviewer checklist, and my repo conventions. The more work you do like this, the less you want a raw model. You want a model wrapped in your process. For my channel, this matters a lot. I do not want every video to rediscover my rules. No bad screenshots. No stale sources. No fake UI presented as real. No errors on screenshots. No internal production terms in the public script. No final render without review. Those are not just preferences, they are operating rules. And if the AI stack can carry those rules into every task, the quality becomes more consistent. This is also where image and asset workflows become interesting. If I am planning a thumbnail, a UI mockup, or a visual proof card, I do not want to jump through 5 tools just to get one draft. I want the research, the positioning, the copy, the image direction, and the asset generation to talk to each other. That is the reason ChatGPT's broader ecosystem matters. It is not one feature, it is fewer handoffs. And fewer handoffs means fewer places where the work dies. Here is a simple example. I can start with a source brief, then ask for thumbnail angles, then generate a clean visual direction, then build a mock layout, then ask Codex to turn the layout into a real Remotion component, then run a reviewer that checks whether the final frames actually match the rules. That chain is not one model response. It is a production line. And the more pieces live inside one coordinated ecosystem, the less time I spend babysitting the handoff. Then you get to automations. This is where I think a lot of people underestimate Codex. OpenAI's Codex app includes automations for scheduled background work. That means you can imagine daily issue triage, CI failure summaries, release notes, research refreshes, or content prep landing in a review queue. Not fully autonomous chaos, reviewable work. That distinction matters. The future I want is not, AI does everything while I sleep and I hope it did not break anything. The useful version is AI prepares the work, gives me a clean review surface, and I approve the parts that matter. That review queue idea is important. Autonomy without review is scary. Review without preparation is slow. The sweet spot is prepared work that waits for judgment. For engineering, that could be failed tests summarized with likely causes. For content, that could be tomorrow's source list with confidence levels. For operations, that could be a daily digest with suggested follow-ups. The agent does not need to be the boss. It needs to be the sharp assistant that shows up with the right packet at the right time. Here is a mock workflow, not my real Slack or Gmail. Every morning, I want a short creator operator briefing what AI launches happened overnight, which sources are official, which scripts need updates, which repo tasks failed, which comments need a reply. A chatbot can summarize if I paste all the context. A workflow system can fetch the approved context, synthesize it, and give me the next actions. That is the difference. The magic is not the answer. The magic is the context pipeline. And this is where I think many comparisons online are too shallow. They ask both tools the same prompt and rank the paragraph. That is useful, but it is not enough anymore. The better test is start with a messy real goal. Force the tool to gather context. Make it produce an artifact. Make it revise the artifact. Make it run a check. Then judge the final output. That is much closer to how work actually happens. Now, to be fair, I would not throw Claude away. There are places where Claude still feels excellent. Claude code is strong for developer workflows. Claude's writing tone can be very natural. For some code review conversations, I still like the way Claude reasons through trade-offs. And if your whole workflow is already built around Claude, switching just because of one exciting demo would be a bad decision. The honest answer is not Claude bad, ChatGPT good. The honest answer is Claude may still be one of the best individual AI collaborators, but ChatGPT plus Codex is becoming a stronger integrated workflow layer. Those are different questions. And honestly, depending on your job, Claude may still be the right default. If you live in one code base, love the terminal flow, and already have strong Claude code muscle memory, do not switch just because someone made an exciting YouTube video. If you are doing long writing sessions and Claude gives you the voice you like, keep using it. If your team has already built policies, prompts, and review habits around Claude, the switching cost is real. My point is not that everyone should move overnight. My point is that the comparison has changed. You should compare the full workflow now, not just the answer quality. So if I were moving from Claude only to ChatGPT plus Codex, I would not start by copying old chats. I would start with a migration folder. One file for writing style, one file for project context, one file for reusable prompts, one file for source rules, one file for safety rules. Then I would recreate the top 5 workflows, not the top 5 conversations: research, coding, content planning, asset generation, daily review. That is how you move the operating system, not just the chat history. And I would do this in phases. Phase 1, recreate the workflows with dummy data. Do not connect everything on day 1. Phase 2, run both tools in parallel on the same non-sensitive tasks. Measure time saved, failure rate, source quality, and how much manual cleanup you still do. Phase 3, move the workflows that clearly win. Keep the old tool for the areas where it still performs better. That is the grown-up answer. Not loyalty, not tribalism, workflow evidence. So here is my challenge. For 1 week, do not ask which model sounds smarter in a blank chat. Ask which ecosystem helps you ship more finished work. Can it read the right context? Can it cite sources? Can it edit the real repo? Can it run the test? Can it wait for your approval? Can it become repeatable? Because that is the next AI competition. Not who writes the prettiest paragraph. Who becomes the workflow layer you actually trust. And the reason I am excited is that this finally feels like the category is moving beyond prompts. For 2 years, everyone argued about model rankings. Now the more interesting question is product architecture. Where does the context live? Where do approvals happen? Where do agents run? How do humans review the work? How do you repeat the same workflow next week without starting from zero? That is where the next big AI advantage will come from. If you want the migration checklist I use for AI tools, I will pin it in the YouTube comments. Subscribe to Eager with AI because the next video is going to be a hands-on build of this workflow from scratch.